everyone, I'm Rachel. Welcome back to my channel, and it is once again weigh-in Wednesday. So as you saw this morning, I weighed in at 290.7, which is actually a 1 pound increase from my weigh-in last week of 289.7. So what did I do wrong? Nothing and everything. So we'll kind of get into that. I'm really disappointed about the gain, but I'm trying to be mindful that weight loss is not linear, and it's probably a good explanation that I really don't need to feel terribly guilty about. So anyway, we'll talk about my food for the week. My food was pretty good. I did have a couple incidents of BLTs, which is bite licks tastes. In Brightline Eating, we call them BLTs, and we're not supposed to have any of those. That's part of the plan. And I kind of did this week, but nothing that would have caused me to gain a pound. There were 3 incidents that I can think of. One was one of my tomato plants finally, the fruit began to blossom, and I had a couple of tomatoes off of it. And by a couple of tomatoes, I mean like cherry tomatoes. So that's what, like 10 calories or something. So obviously that did not cause me to gain a pound. Another incident was we were out shopping. I was out shopping with a friend. When I say we, it was a friend. And they had bought this, I don't know what brand it was or what you would call it, but it wasn't quite like a turkey jerky, but it was almost like a jerky. It was more like a sausage. I don't know what you would call it. Anyway, my friend and I went shopping, and he found this sausage, and it was actually Brightline friendly, and it was shelf stable. And I tried to keep shelf stable Brightline foods around just in case I need them in a pinch, like bags of dried chickpeas and things like that. And it was really expensive. It was like $7 for like 2 ounces of this stuff. And for me, because it's more of a dried meat, like I would have been fine using 2 to 3 ounces as my protein, and it wasn't high fat or anything like that. And it was actually Brightline friendly. So I did not want to buy it without trying it, and he had already bought it. And I was taking him home. We bought it out when we were out shopping. I was like, well, I'll try it, see if I like it. Should we go back and get it for me? Because I was like, I don't really find things like this too much. So I had probably less than an ounce of it for sure, like literally 2 bites. And it was okay, but I was like, I don't know if I would really want to use that. So I had a couple of bites of tomato, and then on another day I had a couple of bites of sausage. So again, what are we up to now? Like maybe 150 calories. Not gonna make me gain a pound. And then what was the other one? Okay. One day I went swimming quite a bit. And I kind of have this thing that's kind of become a modification for me. And I wouldn't advocate anybody else doing this, but it has worked for me in the past. So basically, I eat dinner kind of early considering what time I go to bed. I go to bed pretty late. And with it being summer, my bedtime's been getting pushed back later and later and later. So anyway, we have a pool, and I try to spend as much time as possible in the pool. Because I know that can help me lose weight. Just I've read some studies where just submerging yourself in cold water for long periods of time will boost your calorie burning. So I try and get in the pool as much as I can. And I had gone in the pool that day because it was really, really hot quite a few times. And at the end of the day, I was going to bed. It was probably like midnight or 1 a.m. And I was super, 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 super hungry. Like hungry to the point that I could not fall asleep. And this has happened before. Like I have had nights where I literally stayed up all night because I cannot sleep when I'm hungry. Like I literally cannot. It just does not happen. So I have kind of been, and this has only happened like maybe 3 or 4 times in this whole process of Brightline Eating. So I've been on Brightline Eating like 4 months now. So it's happened maybe 4 times-ish, I think. But my thing is, if I am trying to go to sleep and I am hungry while I'm trying to go to sleep, and I kind of time it. If I lay in bed for more than an hour trying to fall asleep and I'm still hungry, like legitimately hungry, I will get up and eat something. Now, normally, and by normally, I mean every other time I've done this, the only thing that I would eat is a handful of baby carrots because it fills me up and it's not, a ton of calories. It's still vegetables. I feel okay with it. I don't feel guilty about that. But on this particular evening, I didn't have any baby carrots. I didn't have any cherry tomatoes. I did not have any kind of fresh prepped vegetable. The only vegetables I had that night were frozen vegetables. Because it was actually the day before I was going to go grocery shopping. I was out of everything fresh or any prepared vegetable dishes. So I was like, well, what else can I eat? I don't want to touch fruit at night because I don't want to raise my blood sugar at night. And I didn't want to touch a grain at night because that's not even part of lunch and dinner. So that didn't make any sense. So I ended up eating a piece of cheese, literally one slice of cheese and like a pickle spear. So, okay, I think that's like still less than 100 calories. So my total, and I know the people on Brightline are like, don't worry about calories, don't worry about calories. Okay, you can not worry about calories if you don't want to, but you can't say calories don't matter. So I do take calories into consideration, and I really don't care what anyone thinks about that. So anyway, so throughout the entire week, I was off. I consumed maybe 250 calories more than I would have had I not had those BLTs. So would 250 calories of BLTs cause me to gain weight when my normal calorie intake is like 12 to 1300? Absolutely not. Like, that makes no sense at all. So I'm not really blaming the food. That being said, I do need to tighten it up. I definitely need to focus on planning my meal times out a little bit better so that I don't have any BLTs. And I mean, I'm not like upset about it, but I know that I have to be very mindful of it because it can easily become a downward spiral of just, exception after exception after exception. So I just, my goal, I guess, for the next week is to not make so many exceptions for any reason. And kind of reevaluate I guess not reevaluate, because I really don't see any other solution to the nighttime hunger. And the nighttime hunger issue isn't something that I deal with on a regular basis. I mean, it happens once a month, maybe twice on a bad month, but normally it doesn't happen at all. So anyway, so that was my food for the week. Other than that, all my foods were weighed, measured, everything was perfect. And I'm totally happy with it. So, there are some other things I think may have contributed. One of them being medications. I have cut back on one medication, which may have an effect on how much water I'm retaining. And then another medication, I started another over-the-counter medication, but I'm only using it as needed. And I've only used it like 3 times. So, people are like, well, what does that have to do with anything? My body is weird when it comes to putting any kind of foreign substance into it. I am incredibly sensitive to medications to the point that I won't touch 99% of them. Part of that's my hypochondria, but the hypochondria kind of stems from real situations that have happened. Pretty much any kind of chemical I put into my body, anything abnormal, makes me blow up like a freaking balloon. My hands swell up, my feet swell up, my legs swell up. So I can't take, most painkillers I don't touch. I avoid taking anything. So I never know when I start something new if that's going to be a problem. And then, like I said, my liver enzymes came up off on my blood test. So I don't know if that could be playing a part in it. I really don't know. Another thing is it could be hormonal. Sorry, my allergies, they are so bad right now. My cycle is kind of re-regulating itself. And I do track it, and based on my tracker and symptoms, I think I may have ovulated earlier than I normally ovulate. So if that is the case, it very well could be water retention, because after, for guys, if any guys are watching this, TMI, but women can probably relate. After I ovulate, from the point that I ovulate to the time that I actually have my period, I retain water like it's no one's business. And if I track my weight loss, when I look at my actual graph and my tracker, it's not an app, I use a Excel spreadsheet to track my loss. Every 4 to 5 weeks, because my periods are a little bit further apart than most people, every 4 to 5 weeks during the point that I ovulate to the point that I actually have my period, my weight loss just like slows down drastically. I've looked at my chart, and after ovulation, between ovulation and my period, my weight loss previously had slowed down to a pound or less a week. So if it slowed down a pound or less a week in the past, who's to say that it isn't the same type of water retention that is causing me to actually go up 1 pound? So that's another factor, and I'm probably like totally overthinking everything. But you know, it is what it is. I think anyone else in my position would, you know, be overthinking it too. But at the end of the day, you know, I think it's good for me to be mindful of those things and take them into consideration, remind myself that, you know, you're not screwing up so bad that your weight loss is going to stall or make you gain. There's no way at this point I could be gaining legitimate fat from what I'm eating. So, yeah, the only other thing I think that kind of might be a factor is stress and inactivity. This has been the least active week I have had since starting Bright Line Eating. It's also been the most stressful week for me since starting Bright Line Eating. And I think that, how do I put this? A lot of people who are overweight and obese do suffer from food addiction. That is one part of our weight gain, our obesity, is the fact that whether we're aware of it or not, we are addicted to food. We're addicted to flour. We're addicted to sugar. We're addicted to that fix that we get from food. But we also, many of us, suffer from emotional eating, and that's because we don't have the coping mechanisms to deal with our emotions, or we have past trauma or something, and we basically medicate with food, you know. And when you start a plan like Bright Line Eating, it's great because you're finally like, I got my hunger under control, you know, I can do this. What they don't tell you when you start something like Bright Line Eating is, and I guess she has touched on this a little bit here and there, and I have heard other people in the community talk about it, is if you are an emotional eater or you have any kind of trauma in your life that you have used the food to cope with, you've kind of been suppressing it with food, and all of that is going to just kind of at some point erupt like a volcano. And I kind of feel like that's where I've been this last week. Because I no longer use food to self-medicate, when something happens that reminds me of a trauma, and I have PTSD from some things that happened, and I don't want to go into all the events in my life that caused me PTSD at this point, maybe in another video, but when you can't eat to make you feel better, you don't know how to cope with it, and it has kind of become a downward spiral for me. I found this, there's been a couple things that have happened in the last couple of weeks that have kind of brought some of those traumas back to the forefront of my mind, at least. And it's been very frustrating because I don't know how to cope with them. I don't know, you know, once I start thinking about them, it kind of becomes obsessive. And then one problem rolls into another problem, rolls into another problem. And the next thing you know, I've created this big giant ball of anxiety where I've rolled all of these things into one, and they're not one. I don't know how to describe it. And it just becomes completely overwhelming to deal with. That being said, I know that I do see a therapist. That's how I got diagnosed with PTSD. So I know that it's important for me to get back into therapy because I haven't been in about 3 months. And that's kind of, I think, where everything started was when our cat passed away. So anyway, I don't want to get into that. But if you're starting bright line eating and you are an emotional eater and you have past trauma in your life, just be fully aware that once you're not able to self-medicate with food, you're probably in for some hard times, because you may not have the coping mechanisms to deal with those things. So anyway, I feel like that's something they should really talk about because I don't know many people who have weight issues that do not have some kind of unresolved trauma in their life. I think that's just, a lot of us are emotional eaters. A lot of us eat to deal with things because we can't deal with them. So anyway, yeah, that took a dark turn. So that's my update for the week. Other than that, I'm doing okay, and hopefully I am going to try and tighten things up this week. I haven't been journaling my food because I think I said earlier it's become kind of a source of anxiety for me. But at this point, I feel like it's important for me to journal it, see if there's anything I'm doing that may be derailing me. Am I eating something that I'm eating too much of, like marinara or something like that? So I think for now, I am going to go back to journaling my food. Probably not in like a handwritten journal, but I think I'm going to keep track of it in my Fitness Pal so that I can actually tally up how much I'm eating. Because I have a sneaking suspicion that my eggplant marinara that I eat quite frequently could be bolstering my calories more than I would like. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that this week, and hopefully that will help me identify any problem areas that I could tighten up. So all right, that's it. I hope everyone has a good week, and I'll check in with you next Wednesday. Bye.